Hey guys, it's Chelsea from Little Mountain Ranch, and today I wanted to talk to you about dairy cows. One of the things that I hear quite often when I'm talking to people about homesteading is that they've always dreamed of having a milk cow. And that's something I completely understand. It was one of the things that I was looking forward to the most when I first started exploring the idea of having a homestead. I got my first dairy cow about 7 years ago. Prior to that, I had dairy goats, so I do have experience with bull. As our family grew, our need for milk grew, and we were just able to get more milk with a dairy cow, which is one of the reasons why we decided to make the switch. I will do a separate video where I talk about the pros and cons of both. My plan is to do a series of videos about the family milk cow and just keeping an eye out for my bull because he is right here. And while he is generally pretty friendly, he is also a Jersey bull, so I just want to be a little bit extra cautious because he may come over here, especially because Maple's here, and ask us to please leave the premises. Okay, I'm gonna plunk myself in this hay pile here and we'll see what Buttercup thinks of that. What do you think, Buttercup? Can I hang out with you and sit in your food? So there are a couple things to consider when you're getting a dairy cow. One is, of course, the initial cost. Generally speaking, hybrids, that's a cross between one breed and another, tend to be less expensive than a purebred. Of course, that's generally the way it is. Although I haven't found it to be such a huge discrepancy in our area that it's made really a huge difference into our decisions to go into specific breeds or purebreds. My personal preference is a purebred Jersey, but again, I'll talk about that in a future video. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the amount of land that you're going to need for a Jersey cow. So I have experience in a couple of different settings. We did have a dairy cow on a 2.5 acre property, and the pen that we had her in was only, I want to say, about half an acre. So one of the downsides of that is we did have to feed her year-round hay, so we didn't have any pasture for her. It can be done, and I would take her out of the pen and bring her over to different areas on the property to graze during the day, but in my opinion, it wasn't really the best setup for a dairy cow, although it was totally possible, and we did do it for just about a year. We do have 160 acres where we are now, and so we have a lot of cross fencing, so we can rotate our animals around. We only have to feed from usually about the end of October, the beginning of November, all the way through until May, and then we can start grazing them again. That's one of the benefits of having a larger piece of property is the feed costs generally can be less because you have lots of areas to graze them, and I think that's probably pretty obvious. As far as the cost of raising a dairy cow, the smaller breed of cow, obviously the less food they're going to eat. So a Holstein or a Brown Swiss, the larger breed dairy cows, are going to eat a heck of a lot more than a Jersey, and that has been our experience. Jerseys don't eat a ton. Generally, we use about 1 round bale per cow per month. That's what we sort of average, and she's just chewing her cud behind me. And that tends to work out perfectly. When we budget that much hay, we might have a little bit more, a little bit less one month, but that usually will take us through the 6 to 7 months that we need to be feeding out. Sometimes when there is a huge surplus of hay, they're chewing in my ear. I'm really finding distracting. Anyway, we have paid as low as $30 for a round bale of hay, maybe 800 or 900 pounds of hay, a smaller bale, up to $150 and sometimes $200. The price of hay can vary dramatically depending on the year. That is something to keep in mind. So just because one year you're getting hay for really cheap, the next year there could be a drought or too much water for people to get their hay off, and you could end up having to pay even upwards of $200 a bale. So really keep that in mind. On our property, we are at the point now where we have the right balance of animals to the amount of hay that we can produce ourselves, and this will be the first year that we don't have to buy hay on our property, which is awesome. One thing I want to quickly mention about hay too, if you are getting non-sprayed or non-fertilized hay, so organic hay, the price is going to go up dramatically. We grow our hay organically, so if we were to have to buy those, I think the last time I looked, organic hay was around $200 a ton. That's crazy, right? Who can afford that? Very much something to keep in mind when you're looking at hay, as well as whether it's important to you that it's organic or not organic, and then keep that in mind when you are pricing out your hay. The only other cost that we really have seen over the last 7 or 8 years, I want her to step on my foot. Excuse me, big girl. That way. Okay, so Sorry, I thought it was a really good idea to come and film down here by the animals, but they're really distracting. Okay, so obviously the cost of hay. The other thing to keep in mind is worming. I tend to worm depending on the year. There are some years I haven't had to worm. We haven't had any issue. We've been really lucky with not having a huge issue with worms. And one of the reasons is because we have a large property and we can rotate our animals around a lot. They're on fresh ground, and there is an opportunity to break up the worm cycle with the animals. But because I buy my dewormer in bulk, it really only costs maybe about $20 a year. So it is really inexpensive. If you are having a cow and milk, you do have to keep that in mind when you're buying dewormer, that you're buying dewormer that is specifically formulated for milking cows, and that is a little bit more expensive. And then there are vet bills. And we have had I think there was 2 incidences in which we had to call the vet for milk fever. I now know how to treat milk fever myself. Milk fever is something that happens in milk cows, usually after they freshen. Freshening means after they've had their baby and they start producing milk. It usually happens within the first 24 to 48 hours of having a calf. And what it's actually caused by is the calcium being pulled out of the cow's body and put into that milk production. And then it can cause them to have horrible tremors and actually even die if you don't get on top of it. So the first 2 times that it happened for us, and it was almost $500 to have the vet come out. Our cow was too sick to put her in a trailer and bring her in both times. And that is something that you learn over time when you've had livestock, is how to treat them yourself, and then you can save a fortune in vet bills. It is a good idea to have a separate account set up or some type of savings account for unexpected vet bills on your farm. And I would personally recommend at least $500 in that account so that you're not caught if you do need to call a vet, because that can really set people back if you don't have that money set aside. Hi, sweetie, you scared me. I didn't hear you coming up. This is Maple, for those of you that are new here. She's our female Great Pyrenees. Absolutely the sweetest dog in the world, aren't you? You're just the sweetest. So now I'm going to be distracted again. I'm going to share with you a price comparison. So what it would cost for us to buy our milk from the grocery store compared to what it costs for us to produce our own milk. Keep in mind that milk in Canada is super expensive. So for a gallon of organic milk, it is $9, 9 Canadian dollars, which is insane. We go through probably about 2 gallons of milk a day between drinking cereals, cooking, making yogurt, making butter, and all of that stuff. That's $18 a day and $540 a month. We're also making our own butter and our own yogurt and a lot of our own cheeses. I'm still not making my own cheddar, so that's still one of the dairy things that we're buying from the grocery store. But we're also not buying all of that, and that saves us a fortune at the grocery store. So all around, yeah, there's no question that having a dairy cow for us, a family milk cow, is definitely the way to go. This guy right here, that is my bull. That's Wesley. And he can get a little bit silly. So I'm thinking maybe I should stand up, because he is probably going to come over here and have words with Maple, because Maple is close to his ladies. So just a sec, I'm going to get up and move somewhere a little bit safer. I should say Wesley is not an aggressive bull at all. He's a sweetheart, but he is still a bull. So, and he's also a Jersey bull, and Jersey bulls are notorious for being a little bit silly from time to time. If you are only going to have one dairy cow, then having a bull is not practical. Also, depending on the amount of land you have, it can really be impractical. So you have a couple of different options. You can use artificial insemination. Generally, that costs around $100 for a straw of bull sperm. And it is, I think it was about $100 to have someone come out and do it. But you can learn how to do it online. It's not that difficult. The other thing you can do is rent a bull. You can just contact a farmer who you know has a dairy bull and ask them. You can also sometimes do boarding. We've done that before, where people will bring their cows here to get bred. Generally, they'll stay for 2 cycles. And I think I usually charge like $50 or something like that. It's not a ton. It doesn't cost a ton to do that. If you are going to have your own bull, then you have to just keep all of those costs I already mentioned about having your dairy cow will also transfer over to your bull. If you have a Jersey bull, they're not that big, so they don't eat that much. So that is something to keep in mind and consider. They will eat also a bale of hay and have the same worming costs and everything else as your cow will have. So you'll just have to double Maple, you silly girl. The other thing that I like about it the most is that I know exactly what goes into my girls. I know what they're eating. We produce our own hay on our farm and it is organic. They also have a lot of pasture. They get to live a good life, which is important to me. So it's not just about the cost for me. It is also about the animal itself. Right, miss? It matters to me that the animals are happy. These cows are so funny with Maple. Look at this. That's Oscar over there. Oh, and Wesley, that's the bull. She's a little bit more hesitant about Wesley just because she knows he can get a little bit wily. What a good dog she is, hey? She's gonna get a knock here. What's she gonna do? Totally submits to them. She is honestly the most perfect dog. This is a really good sign what you see her doing there, rolling on and showing them her tummy like that. There's no aggression in her at all. I just decided that was a good time to get up and move positions just in case Wesley decided that he didn't want me to be where I was, because he would do the same thing to me, knock me around with his head. So I think that is about it for me. My kids are all starting to come over. Can you see them over there? Ignore the fact that my chicken tractor is still here and not put away. They are going to want to go inside. You guys want to go inside? Yeah. Okay. All right, guys, if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. And if you haven't subscribed already and you would like to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button down below. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, everyone. Bye. Come on, Maple. Let's go. Come on. Good girl.